Pain. Cold. Restraints biting into flesh. Captain Damien Cole's boots barely touched the floor as two towering Tarxel enforcers dragged him down the dimly lit corridor of Zarathus 9. His arms were wrenched behind him, bound in pulse cuffs that sent intermittent shocks through his nervous system, not enough to incapacitate, just enough to remind him who was in control. The walls hummed with alien energy, flickering blue sigils marking the maximum security black site for prisoners the Galactic Council wanted erased. Cole's head lolled slightly, blood pooling in his mouth from a cracked lip. He had lost count of how many beatings they had delivered. It didn't matter. He wasn't broken. Not even close. Ahead, his team marched in force formation, Sergeant Bishop, Lieutenant Hayes, and Corporal Rourke, each battered, but alive. Their eyes locked onto his for a split second, silent confirmation that they were still in the fight. The prison's command chamber loomed ahead, its doors hissing apart. Inside, waiting with calculated indifference, stood High Inquisitor Exorvath Kazan. Tall and gaunt, his violet-hued exoskeleton gleamed beneath the sterile white glow. His 4 reptilian eyes blinked in unsettling succession, his mandibles clicking in a slow, deliberate rhythm. He studied them, not as prisoners, but specimens. Humans, he mused, his voice slithering like oil over steel. So much noise about your so-called legendary warriors, yet here you are, shackled, bleeding. Helpless. Cole spat a glob of red-streaked saliva onto the polished floor. You talk too much. Kazan's expression didn't change, but the 2 Tarxel guards flanking him tensed. Defiant even in chains. Admirable, in its futility. He stepped closer, looming over Cole. You misunderstand your position, Captain. You are no longer soldiers. You are artifacts, subjects to be studied, dismantled, and discarded. Cole didn't flinch. He'd been through worse. That right? His voice was hoarse, but steady. Well, while you're studying me, let me give you a free lesson. He tilted his head just enough for Kazan to catch the faintest, most imperceptible of glances. To Bishop. To Hayes. To Rourke. A silent cue. Kazan turned away, addressing a glowing console, oblivious to the small, quick, rhythmic tap Cole made with his boot against the floor. A message. The first step in their escape. 72 hours earlier, the ambush. The mission had been clear: covert insertion, reconnaissance, and extraction. A deep infiltration into Council-controlled territory, with orders to gather intel on the Galactic Council's advanced bioweapon research. They had slipped in undetected, executed the job perfectly, until everything turned to hell. A false intelligence leak had led them into an ambush. Hundreds of enemy forces descended on them like a precision strike. Escape was impossible. Even for Green Berets. Hold the line! Cole had roared over the chaos, pulse rifle bucking against his shoulder. But it had been too late. One by one, his team was overwhelmed, stunned, captured, and dragged into the belly of enemy space. Now here they were, paraded like trophies in an alien dungeon. But they weren't done yet. Present, the prison's mistake. A metallic shriek echoed through the room as the main doors sealed shut behind them. The guards shoved Cole and his men to their knees, forcing them to bow before Kazan. Cole's jaw clenched. He memorized the positioning of every guard, every surveillance node, every security override panel. He had done this before. What is it you want? Bishop's voice cut through the air, his tone clipped but steady. Kazan turned to him, his mandibles shifting in an eerie approximation of a smile. What I want, he said, is to understand. He tapped a sequence on the console. A holoscreen flickered to life, displaying footage of human battles. Your species is primitive, but uniquely violent. Your combat efficiency is unmatched among known races. We have analyzed your wars, dissected your strategies, yet still, there are anomalies. Kazan's 4 eyes bore into them. You do not fight like us. You do not break like others. Why? Cole laughed. A raw, bitter sound. You don't get it, do you? His head lifted, bloody but defiant. You think this is about tactics, or strategies, or weapons. But it's not. It's about what we are. He leaned in slightly, voice dropping to a low murmur. You think we're locked in here with you. You're locked in here with us. Kazan frowned. Then, the lights flickered. A small, almost unnoticeable tremor ran through the walls. What was that? One of the guards turned, confused. System disruption detected. A mechanized voice echoed overhead. Containment breach in Sector C. Cole smirked. A low, rhythmic hum vibrated through the walls of Zarathus 9, a mechanical whisper that went unnoticed by its alien overseers. Cole heard it. So did his team. The signal was clear. Phase 1 had begun. Kazan, oblivious to the significance of the tremors, scowled at the control panel as red warning glyphs flashed across the display. Containment breach detected. The automated system droned. The High Inquisitor's mandibles clicked in irritation. What is the meaning of this? His violet-hued eyes flickered toward the Tarxel guards. The warriors stiffened, exchanging uncertain glances before one of them tapped a communicator on his wrist. Security report. Silence. Then static. Cole smirked. The first step. The Berets had coordinated everything in the past 72 hours, passing silent messages through taps, blinks, and scratches on their cell walls. They knew the prison's routines, the guards' habits, and most importantly, their blind spots. Bishop had figured out which conduits powered the internal grid. Hayes had identified a ventilation route that led straight to the emergency access terminal. Rourke had kept track of which guards could be baited into mistakes. Cole had pieced it all together into a single, brutal plan. And now, it was unfolding. The first kill. The guards tightened their grips on Cole and his men. On your feet, one growled. They were being moved. Kazan wanted to maintain control. Too late. Cole and his team staggered to their feet, feigning exhaustion. As they passed through the doorway, the overhead lights flickered again. Perfect. Bishop acted first. He collapsed. Dropped like a sack of meat. His body hit the ground, limp, unmoving. Get up! The closest Tarxo barked. No response. The alien stepped forward, lowering his plasma baton. That was his mistake. The moment he got close enough, Bishop exploded into motion. His bound hand shot up, looping over the guard's massive wrists before yanking him forward with unexpected force. The Tarxo stumbled, right into Cole's waiting arms. A brutal headbutt cracked cartilage and bone. Before the alien could react, Bishop drove his knee into its throat. No time for screaming. Bishop tore the alien's baton from its grip, swung it upward, and snapped the other guard's jaw sideways with a sickening crack. 2 enemies. Dead in 5 seconds. The remaining guards hesitated, too slow. Rourke lunged, wrapping his pulse-cuffed hands around a rifle barrel and twisting it sideways, firing straight into an alien's gut. A pulse round. Point blank. The Tarxo collapsed, convulsing. Cole wasted no time. He ripped the dead guard's wrist communicator free and tossed it to Hayes, who immediately jammed it into a neural slot on the security terminal. A flicker. The cuffs on their wrists deactivated. Now we're talking, Rourke muttered, rubbing his wrists as he grabbed a plasma pistol. Cole rolled his shoulders, retrieving a shock dagger from a fallen guard's holster. Bishop, secure the corridor. Hayes, get into the system. We need control of those cell blocks now. The exfiltration had begun. The prison awakens. The facility's automated defenses roared to life. Barricades slammed into place, red lights casting eerie shadows over the metallic walls. An alarm blared across the compound. High-level containment breach in progress. Initiating lockdown. Cole didn't flinch. He crouched beside the dead Tarxel and ripped its belt free, fastening it around his own waist before slinging a pulse rifle over his shoulder. Status, Hayes? The lieutenant worked quickly, his fingers gliding over the alien control panel with practiced efficiency. I can override door access for 3 minutes max. That's all we need. The Green Berets were a force of nature in a battlefield, But battles weren't won on brute strength alone. They needed chaos. Distraction. A battlefield on their terms. "Open the detention wings," Cole ordered. Hayes hesitated. "That's going to unleash everyone. We don't know who." "Doesn't matter." Cole's eyes were sharp. "They hate the Council. That makes them useful." A pause. Then Hayes nodded. His fingers entered the last command. The security feed flickered. Then pandemonium. The uprising begins. Metal doors hissed open all across the complex. The roars of prisoners filled the air, a cacophony of rage, confusion, and bloodlust. Tarxel guards spun in panic, their formations breaking as waves of alien inmates surged from their cells. A three-way war erupted instantly. Some prisoners attacked each other, driven by old rivalries. Others turned on their captors with unrestrained vengeance. Gunfire erupted. Energy bolts lanced through the air, slicing through armor, flesh, and steel alike. Cole and his team moved like ghosts through the chaos. "Weapons up," he murmured. "We're getting out of here." They slipped between shadows, dispatching enemies with swift, calculated precision. A Tarxel officer raised his weapon, only for Bishop to drive a stolen plasma blade into his ribcage. Rourke lobbed a stolen grenade into a formation of charging guards. The explosion ripped through them like a razor storm. Hayes hijacked an enemy comms unit, feeding false orders into their radio network. The Green Berets weren't just escaping, they were dismantling the prison from the inside. Zarathus 9 was on fire. The air reeked of plasma burns, alien blood, and raw chaos. The prison's once sterile corridors had become a war zone, bodies littering the floor, smoke curling from the wreckage of fallen security drones. Captain Damien Cole moved like a phantom through the anarchy, pulse rifle tight in his grip. His team was spread out, each man executing their role with brutal efficiency. Hayes had commandeered the prison's internal security feed, feeding false alerts to enemy forces. Bishop and Rourke had set up kill zones at key junctions, cutting down waves of alien enforcers. Cole's radio crackled. "Cole, this is Hayes. Detention wings are open. Every prisoner with a grudge is in the fight." "Perfect. Get to the hangar controls. We need an exit." "On it." Cole ducked behind a fallen Tarxel corpse as a plasma bolt sizzled past his head, burning into the wall. He turned, saw a Kronith brute, massive, armored, charging. "Rourke!" A grenade sailed through the air, bouncing once before detonating beneath the alien's feet. The explosion ripped through its chest, sending its upper half flying. "Gotcha covered, Cap!" Cole didn't waste time on gratitude. They still had to reach the armory. The battlefield shifts. The Galactic Council had lost control. Prisoners, some former warlords, others political dissidents, slaughtered guards with stolen weapons. Others tore through security doors, disappearing into hidden corridors. "Containment is breached beyond salvage." A panicked alien voice crackled through the prison's loudspeakers. "All remaining forces, regroup at primary barricades." Cole grinned. They were folding. "Bishop, push them toward the choke point." Bishop's reply was two quick sniper shots over comms, both headshots. A squad of Tarxel warriors scrambled for cover, falling back toward a bulkhead. They thought they were retreating to safety. They were running into a trap. Rourke and Hayes were already there, waiting. When the first alien stumbled through, a knife punched up into its throat, twisting deep. The rest barely had time to scream before a flurry of suppressed gunfire silenced them. "Bulkhead secured," Hayes confirmed. Cole moved in. "Push forward. We take the armory next." Inside the armory, the reinforced vault doors loomed ahead, pulsing with a biometric lock keyed to high-ranking officers. "We breach or override?" Rourke asked. Cole examined the bodies. "No officers." "Override." Hayes cracked his knuckles and got to work on the panel. Alien glyphs scrolled across the screen as he bypassed layers of encryption. A muffled boom echoed from the south corridor. The riot was escalating. "Time's a factor, Hayes," Bishop muttered. "Almost there." The vault hissed. Locks disengaged. The doors slid open, revealing racks of advanced weaponry. Cole didn't hesitate. He grabbed a pulse carbine, checked the charge, tossed another to Bishop. Load up fast. We're about to have company. Kazan's last stand. On the prison's upper command level, High Inquisitor Exorvath Kazan watched the disaster unfold. He had underestimated them. Badly. The humans were not running. They were hunting. Kazan's claws tapped frantically at the command console, sending an emergency signal directly to the Council's central authority. Deploy emergency reinforcements. All available forces. Static. The distress beacon had been jammed. His mandibles twitched in rage. No. No, no, no! A flickering security feed showed the humans arming themselves in the vault. They were coming. He spun to his remaining elite guards, Tarkzul enforcers clad in heavy armor. Form up! The humans will not leave this place alive! The warriors clanged their fists to their chests, weapons primed. They believed they could hold the line. Kazan knew better. The Green Berets versus the Kill Squad. The prison corridors funneled into the hangar sector, where a single blockade stood between Cole's team and escape. The Tarkzul Kill Squad had dug in, barricading the main passage. Heavy reinforcements ahead, Hayes called out. Cole scanned the area. Too many guards, too much open ground. A frontal assault? Suicide. Flank left. Use the conduits. They slipped into the maintenance crawlways, moving fast and low. Through the vents, Cole spotted Kazan pacing behind the blockade, barking orders. The bastard was personally overseeing their capture. Perfect. Bishop, take high ground. I want him dead first. Bishop vanished into the shadows, rifle slung over his shoulder. Rourke, Hayes, flashbangs first, then clean house. Copy. Cole exhaled. Then they struck. The trap springs. The first grenade clattered into the blockade, detonating in a blinding flash. Tarkzul warriors reeled, momentarily disoriented. Then the killing began. Cole vaulted over cover, carbine barking as he put 2 rounds into a guard's skull. Rourke followed, knife slipping under armor, carving through muscle and sinew. Bishop's sniper round pierced Kazan's personal shield, shattering it like glass. Kazan stumbled, eyes wide. He knew he was going to die. Cole advanced, plasma dagger ignited. Kazan snarled, lunging with a wrist blade. Cole sidestepped, caught his arm, and drove the blade straight through the alien's chest. You should have killed us when you had the chance, Cole whispered. With a final twist of the knife, Kazan collapsed. The blockade crumbled. Secure the hangar, Cole ordered, wiping blood from his blade. The hangar doors loomed ahead, their reinforced steel plating sealed tight. Beyond them, the only way out of Zarathus 9. Cole's grip on his pulse rifle tightened. His team had fought their way through the prison, outmaneuvered enemy forces, and turned the facility into a war zone. Now, only one final obstacle remained, the Tarkzul Kill Squad, the last line of defense between them and escape. A distant rumble shook the walls. Hayes cursed. That warship's getting closer. We need those doors open. Then we don't have time to play it safe, Cole said. Bishop, take high ground. Rourke, grenades. Hayes, get to that control panel. No hesitation. The team moved. The kill squad awaits. The Tarkzul warriors had formed a barricade at the center of the hangar, their heavily armored forms blocking every direct path. Plasma shields hummed, their crimson glow casting jagged shadows across the floor. Cole crouched behind cover, scanning the enemy formation. They're dug in. Bishop's voice crackled over comms. Gotta pry them out. Rourke smirked, rolling a high explosive charge between his fingers. Then let's make 'em move. With a practiced flick, he lobbed the grenade straight into their ranks. A thunderous explosion ripped through the barricade, scattering bodies and sending chunks of debris flying. Cole didn't wait for the smoke to clear. Go! The ambush breaks. They rushed forward, weapons blazing. Cole fired 2 precise shots, dropping a Tarxol soldier before it could recover. Rourke was already on the move, knife flashing as he took another down with a brutal slash across its throat. Bishop's sniper fire punched through gaps in their armor, dropping 3 more before they could react. But the Tarxol weren't ordinary foot soldiers. They were council elites, trained for war. A warrior lunged at Cole, wielding an electrified blade. He barely dodged the first swipe, feeling the heat of the weapon crackle inches from his face. "You are unworthy of victory, human," the alien growled. Cole didn't answer. He sidestepped the next attack, twisted the alien's arm back at an unnatural angle, and drove his knife through its neck. The warrior gurgled, collapsed. "Funny. I don't feel unworthy. The doors won't open." Hayes worked furiously at the control terminal, fingers flying over alien symbols. "Doors are locked down tight," he growled. "This system's on a remote override. I need to reroute it manually." A blast rocked the hangar as more Tarxol reinforcements poured in. Cole gritted his teeth. They were running out of time. "Do whatever it takes, Hayes. We'll hold." Holding the line. They took defensive positions, using the wreckage of downed ships as cover. Pulse rounds screamed across the hangar. Cole ducked, returning fire as another Tarxol warrior went down, its armor scorched from a well-placed shot. Rourke tossed another grenade, forcing enemies to scatter. Bishop's rifle barked from above, picking off threats before they got too close. Despite their numbers, the Tarxol were faltering. They hadn't expected the humans to fight like this, to be this precise, this ruthless. Cole could see the fear creeping into their movements. "They're breaking," Bishop called. "Then let's finish this." Hayes cracks the system. The console flashed red, warning alarms blaring. Hayes gritted his teeth, bypassing firewall after firewall. The council's security was tight, but not tight enough. "Got it!" The hangar doors groaned, locking mechanisms disengaging. A blast of freezing air flooded the room as the reinforced steel gates slid open, revealing the vastness of space beyond. Their stolen transport ships sat in the docking bay, engines primed, waiting. The final rush. Cole didn't hesitate. "Move!" They pushed forward, cutting down the last remaining Tarxol. The survivors turned and ran, abandoning the fight. "That's what I thought," Rourke muttered. The team sprinted across the hangar, vaulting over wreckage as they raced toward the ship. Above, the Council warship loomed closer, its gun batteries locking onto their position. Bishop pointed. "We've got incoming!" A squadron of enemy fighters screeched toward them, weapons charging. "We're not out yet," Cole growled. "The escape battle begins." They piled into the transport ship, Rourke jumping into the gunner's seat while Hayes took the controls. "Strap in," Hayes called. "This is gonna be rough." The ship roared to life, thrusters kicking as it lifted off the hangar floor. Cole barely had time to sit before the entire vessel lurched sideways, plasma fire streaking past their hull. Rourke grinned, gripping the turret. "Let's see how these bastards like human retaliation." His first shots tore through an enemy fighter, sending it spiraling into the void. Cole watched the warship looming ahead, its cannons adjusting. They had seconds before it fired. "Hayes, punch it!" "I'm working on it." The transport angled sharply, rocketing toward open space. "Bishop, get a message out to the fleet. Tell them we're coming in hot." A warning siren blared. The Council warship had locked onto them. "Brace." A beam of white-hot energy lanced through space, just missing them by inches. Cole gritted his teeth. They were one mistake away from getting obliterated. "Then let's make sure we don't make any." The stars stretched into infinity, cold and distant, as the stolen transport ship hurtled through space. The burning wreckage of Zerathis 9 shrank behind them, the once feared prison now a smoldering ruin. Inside the cockpit, Hayes gripped the controls with white-knuckled focus, weaving through the debris field at breakneck speed. Every maneuver barely dodged the incoming fire from the enemy warship. "We've got 2 Council fighters closing in fast," Bishop called from the co-pilot's seat. "Working on it," Hayes snapped, adjusting their trajectory. Rourke swung the turret around, tracking the nearest attacker. Not for long, he muttered. The plasma cannon fired, a streak of blue energy ripping through the lead fighter's hull. It detonated in a silent burst, flames briefly licking across the void before vanishing into the black. Scratch 1. Cole barely had time to register the kill before the transport jolted violently. A second fighter had landed a glancing hit, burning a hole through their left wing. Alarm screamed. Shields down to 20%, Hayes shouted. If that battleship gets a lock, we're toast, Bishop added. Cole's jaw clenched. They had come too far to die now. Where's our backup? As if on cue, the comm crackled. This is Admiral Carter of the UHS Retribution. Sit tight, boys. We've got you. Cole looked up through the viewport. A behemoth of steel and fire dropped from FTL, engines burning blue. The human warship had arrived, and it wasn't alone. The battle turns. The Retribution's main cannons roared to life, streaks of searing plasma and railgun fire slicing through the darkness. The Council warship, once an unshakable titan, suddenly found itself outgunned. Cole grinned. Now the fight was even. Let's show these bastards what payback looks like, he said. Hayes swung the transport around, looping back toward the enemy warship as the Retribution's fighters poured into the battle. Bishop, Rourke, time to play offense. The team moved quickly. Rourke manned the rear turret, firing at the remaining Council fighter. A single well-placed shot ignited its core, sending it spiraling into the void. Bishop worked the targeting system, feeding intel to the Retribution's gunners. Main cannons locked. Firing solution in 10 seconds. Cole's earpiece crackled. Captain Cole, this is Carter. You might want to get clear. Cole nodded. Hayes, get us the hell out of the blast zone. The transport's engines flared, rocketing away from the enemy ship. Retribution, you are weapons free. The human warship fired. A wave of devastation erupted from its railguns, tearing straight through the Council vessel's core. The alien ship shuddered, its hull splitting apart. Cole watched in silence as the enemy flagship was consumed by fire. Victory, and the message sent. The comm buzzed again. Cole, you and your men are clear. Stand by for docking procedures. Carter's voice came through. Hell of a stunt you pulled. Cole exhaled. Wasn't planning on staying, Admiral. A pause. Then a chuckle. Well, you certainly made an impression. They guided the transport into the Retribution's hangar, landing smoothly. The moment the hatch opened, medics and security teams swarmed in. Cole stepped onto solid metal, taking his first real breath of relief. A fleet officer approached, saluting sharply. Captain Cole, the Admiral is expecting you. He exchanged a glance with his men. Guess we're not done yet. The aftermath, a galactic shift. Minutes later, Cole stood in the Retribution's war room, Carter seated across from him. You're telling me the Council was running illegal black sites? The Admiral asked. Not just running them, Cole replied. Using prisoners for bioweapon research. Torture. Experiments. That prison wasn't a facility, it was a slaughterhouse. Carter's expression darkened. And now it's gone. Along with their lead interrogator. A moment of silence stretched between them. Finally, Carter sighed. You know what this means? Cole nodded. War. The Council wouldn't let this go. The destruction of Zerathis 9 was an act of defiance they couldn't ignore. But humanity wasn't afraid. Let them come, Cole said, his voice unwavering. Carter studied him, then leaned forward. We're preparing a full debrief. The Council will demand an explanation. Cole met his gaze. Then let's make sure they understand exactly what happens when they cross us. Final scene, humanity's warning. Days later, across the Galactic network, a single transmission was broadcasted to the Galactic Council's ruling chambers. The footage was grainy, static-filled, but the message was clear. A battle-scarred Captain Damian Cole stood in front of the wreckage of Zerathis 9. His voice was calm. Controlled. Deadly. To the leaders of the Galactic Council. You captured us. You tortured us. You thought we'd break. Instead, we walked out of your strongest prison, and we left it in flames. You wanted to know why humans are different. You wanted to study us. Consider this your answer. This was a warning. The next time you come for us, we won't escape. We'll invade. The screen flickered to black.